Money isn't the problem. So what is? Have you ever noticed that money seems to be at the center of humanity's darkest moments? Corruption, scams, environmental destructions, families torn apart by inheritance, or friendships collapsing over financial disagreements. It's easy to look at all of this and think that money must be the problem behind all of this. For a long time, I used to wonder that myself. Money seems to have the strange ability to bring out the worst in people. It can complicate relationships, tempt people into harming others, and sometimes makes it feel as if profit matters more than people. So I began asking myself, is money the problem? Or is it revealing something much deeper? The more I sat with this question, the more I realized this. Money doesn't create character. Money reveals it. Or perhaps more accurately, it amplifies it. Money itself is a powerful tool. It can build hospitals or fund organized crimes. It can restore forests or destroy them. It can help feed a community or exploit one. Money itself doesn't decide. People do. And that changed the question I've been wondering all this time. Instead of thinking, is money good or bad? I began pondering, what kind of people does our society encourages us to become? I wonder if there's an even deeper insight. Perhaps every civilization optimizes for something. Every system rewards something. Some optimize for survival. Some optimize for military power. Some optimize for religious devotion. Some for economic growth. Others for technological progress. But every optimization creates blind spots. For instance, if we optimize only for GDP, we sacrifice relationships. If we optimize only for efficiency, we may sacrifice humanity. If we optimize only for profit, we may sacrifice the planet. Perhaps the right question isn't whether we should optimize. Perhaps it's what deserves to be optimized. Because optimization always creates trade-offs. And perhaps it is just as important to ask what trade-offs are potentially dangerous, harmful, or destructive. And maybe that's where our attention belongs. Not simply in changing money, but in changing the incentives that shapes human behavior. Because the future of humanity may really depend on what we choose to reward wisely. So when we look at the problems in life, instead of people are greedy, ask what incentives are rewarding greed. Instead of people don't care, ask what conditions help people care more, or what conditions are preventing people from caring less. Instead of asking, how could we make more money? We could ask, what kind of people does our society encourages us to become? Instead of, money is the problem, we could ask, if we were designing civilization today and knowing everything we know about psychology, human nature, and well-being, will we design the society the same way? What kind of civilization are we trying to build? Imagine civilization as a garden, and if weeds grow, there are 3 ways to respond. First, blame the weeds. Second, pull out the weeds. Third, ask why the soil is producing weeds. Most conventional conversations stops at 1 or 2. Remove the weed, blame the problem, and then remove them. What if instead we ask, what kind of incentives are we providing to encourage these behaviors? Not because people lack responsibility, but because environment and incentives matter. If you were redesigning the society from scratch, not to maximize wealth, but to maximize human flourishing, what would you reward? What would success look like? What kind of people would rise to leadership? And what behaviors would your system quietly discourage? And what would children learn? And while we're on the subject of children, perhaps the key does lie within education. We could ask questions like, what kind of education produces wiser human beings? Imagine if a school taught a subject called How to Live Well. Not to tell children how to think, but to teach them how to understand themselves. Imagine learning how emotions works, how to repair relationships, how to apologize well, how to recognize manipulation, how incentives shapes behavior, how to navigate conflict without humiliation, how to care for your mind, how to find meaningful work, how to contribute to something larger than yourself. These wouldn't replace mathematics or science, but they would complement them. Because a society full of scientists who cannot solve conflict is still a fragile society. And perhaps we'll also teach something that I wished I learned much earlier, that in every human being, there is a defensive side. Call it the ego, call it the threat detection system, call it the survival instincts. Whatever you call it, it exists in us. It exists in you as long as you are a human being. It can become jealous, defensive, status-seeking, attention-seeking, fearful, and ashamed. I do think this is one of the most important things we could teach children, and perhaps every human, that this exists in us, and there is no point of denying that it doesn't. And what if we taught children how to recognize them with compassion before these emotions quietly make decisions for them? So for example, instead of saying, don't be jealous, we can say, one day you will probably feel jealousy, and that's okay. And here is probably what jealousy feels like. And you describe the feeling and how you can recognize it, and what it's trying to achieve, and what you can do to prevent it from making a decision for you that could hurt you down the line. So maybe wisdom is not about never feeling anger, envy, or fear. Perhaps wisdom is learning how to not let those emotions drive our lives. The more I think about it, the more I begin to wonder perhaps that we've not been shaping human behavior collectively and intentionally. It seems to me that we've spent thousands of years inheriting civilizations instead of consciously designing it. Our ancestors built societies, extraordinary societies, with the knowledge they had. But today, and perhaps for the first time in history, we have much better knowledge around emotional intelligence, neuroscience, childhood development, behavioral economics, and system thinking far better than our ancestor ever did. So perhaps we have a new responsibility, not simply to inherit civilizations, but to consciously improve it, consciously design it. And we can start by asking better questions. What kind of people and characteristics should our system encourage? What should success really look like? What values deserves to be rewarded? What behaviors should be quietly discouraged? And if you could redesign society, knowing everything we learned about human flourishing, what would you create? Perhaps every generation inherits a civilization it didn't choose, but every generation also has the opportunity to design a small part of it. Through the children we raise, through the businesses we build, through the conversations we have, through the values we celebrate. Maybe that's how civilization changes, not all at once, but one thoughtful conversation at a time. Maybe this conversation is one small part of that. I no longer think that money is the villain. I do think though, money is like a mirror. It reflects what a society rewards. It amplifies a person's character. So maybe the problem isn't whether we should abolish money as a system. Maybe we could become curious about what kind of humanity do we want to reward? If you could redesign the society from scratch, what would you reward? Compassion, wisdom, stewardship, curiosity, community? I genuinely love to hear your thoughts on this. So thank you for tuning in to this video today. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I shall see you very, very soon.